Tone shifts can be really good, but this is not that. Hey everyone, welcome to Princess of Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to Season 3, Episode 9 of Fire Force. And last time I had a light crash out, I'll say. It's not the worst I've gotten and everything, but let me go on to explain once again, just to reiterate my issues with the last episode. The first portion of the last episode was really good. It was intense, it was strong, it was this lore-heavy focus on what's been going on with the convent, or what happened in the past, rather, and about Hibana kind of uncovering these secrets. We learn that the sister there is one of the pillars. It's this big moment that really just fits the overall tone and style that this final season should have. And then it completely ruins that with the second part of this episode, the second half of this episode, or last episode. The second half of last episode has such a drastic tone shift into this goofy, silly, over-the-top territory that it is entirely immersion breaking to me. And I want to make clear, this is just for me, and if you don't agree with this, that's fine. Everything I like talk about with these reactions and my thoughts on them is subjective. It's my viewpoint. I'm just sharing my thoughts on how I interpreted the media and everything, because that's what this is about. So if you disagree, that's fine. That's entirely fine. But that is how I saw it. It destroyed my immersion in the series at that moment. Because here's the thing, Fire Force has always had some goofy shit in it. And even in serious arcs and moments, they'll kind of play around with it a little bit, have like a little joke here and there, have some stuff that's kind of silly and ridiculous. It's kind of the general feeling of the series, right? Like, with the first arc of this season, or this season, but this core of the season specifically, because we're getting more to the final season of Fire Force in the future. But with the first arc of this core being so long, it did have some levity in it. From the references to the calendar, to the fact that Obi was avoiding being bitten by the insects by flexing. It's like stuff that's ridiculous and silly, but it's still steeped enough in the serious shit going down, the intense, like, climactic end of series shit going down, that it allows it to feel like levity rather than immersion breaking tone shift. Because that's the big difference here. Those portions in that first arc, the Obi retrieval arc, or whatever the fuck it's called, I just call it that because it makes sense to me. They were moments of levity that didn't distract or take away from the more serious stuff. But here, you're switching from one arc to another, so it's already a completely separate kind of thing. And you're switching in the middle of an episode. The problem is the switch is so jarring because the tone between the two arcs is so jarringly different. And I'm not saying that it's not important. Like, this arc with Arthur, like, getting a better sword and everything, obviously very important. Especially after his loss to Dragon. I get that. I'm not trying to undercut that. That's not the point, though. The point is, you go from something that's super dark, super serious, super intense, and like with the snap of a fingers, it's suddenly a gag comedy, practically. it feels so just distracting to have that big of an immersion break, to have that big of a tone shift, that it completely took me out of the experience. Because tone shifts can be done well, but it's, most of the time, for me at least, it's the other way around. When a series is like goofy or silly or kind of like, lighthearted enough, but then suddenly something changes and it's like, oh, this got really dark really quick. A great example of this, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. And specifically, it's episode 4, I believe. It's the Nina episode. Probably the most memorable and talked about episode of Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Not necessarily the best, but definitely the most memorable and talked about. And the reason for that is because of the tone shift and how well it's done. The early part of the episode is pretty lighthearted. Like, yeah, you're still delving into some serious research that Ed and Elle are trying to do for the sake of, trying to get things fixed with what's going on with them. And the series has obviously delved into super dark and deep stuff before with episode 2. But the early part of this episode is still very lighthearted. There's a lot of goofy comedy, a lot of, Ed chasing Alexander the dog around and stuff. And then the tone shift hits suddenly in a way that's like, it recontextualizes what was just said right before. Because it's like, it cuts off at this moment where it's like, Shao Tucker is talking to Nina, his daughter. And he's like, do you want to play with Daddy tomorrow? And she's like, yeah, play with Daddy. And then it cuts to a different scene, and it's dark, it's stormy out, and it just gives this instant air of worry, of concern. And throughout the episode, even during the light stuff, they've been framing Shao Tucker as a little weirdly suspicious, with the way his glasses glint and stuff, the way he talks. Mind you, I mean, as good of a VA Chuck Huber is, it's kind of fitting that he's suspicious. Chuck Huber's not a good person. Just, if for those who didn't know, I'll leave it at that. Look it up if you want to. He's not a good person. But either way, the tone shift suddenly after that line makes you, in your head, automatically recontextualize that line, as well as all these little hints of things you've seen before. It plays with the information you've received and elevates it. That is how you do a tone shift. And then afterwards, when the big reveal happens, it emotionally destroys you because it earned that. It worked up to that. Everything was set up in a way that made that, devastating. I was going to say, what's the opposite of satisfying? I guess devastating works. It destroys you because of how well that tone shift worked. This is not that. Because, again, part of it is you're changing stories, you're changing arcs in the middle of an episode, which is not usually a good thing to do anyway. Unless you have a series where the episodes are kind of segmented anyway, I don't know, Freerun, I guess, is an example of that, then this kind of thing isn't going to work, and, Fire Force isn't like that normally, so it just feels like an extreme tone shift that just entirely, at least, again, for me, breaks my immersion in what I'm watching. On top of it, I'm not the biggest Arthur fan. So, that doesn't help. The fact that this is, focusing on his goofy-ass shit. It's he's not my least favorite character in this series, but the entire goofy Night King bullshit is, it's a bit much. Again, it's not the worst thing in this series by far. He's not the worst character by far. It's not even close, but it's still, he's still a character I'm not a huge fan of compared to like others like Shinra or Maki or whatnot. Iris, I guess, even Hibana. But it's still, that tone shift is the biggest issue because it completely takes me out of the series. And the reason I'm going into all of this in this at the beginning here is because, like I said last time, despite the fact that there's like only 3 episodes left in this core after this, I will be taking a break after this episode. And the reason for this is because that like genuinely bothered me to such a degree. Maybe like to an inordinate degree to how it should have bothered me. I'll admit that. But it bothered me to that much of a degree that if I keep watching till the end, if I finish those last 3 episodes and force myself to just sit through it, I'm not going to continue reacting to this series. I say that with like 100% confidence and guarantee. If I force myself to keep going through it without taking this break, I will not continue reacting to this. Because it'll just be me like forcing myself to sit through something that I am very clearly upset with at the moment. And I very clearly need a break from at the moment. And that will make me have like intense, not hatred for the series, but I'll be very like, I'll lose interest in it. There was a specific word I was trying to think of, and as always, I couldn't think of it. But I would lose interest in it. I would just have no desire to continue watching because I would have forced myself to do so when I'm at a point of like really resenting. That's what I was thinking of. I would resent it, and I would resent reacting to it like with those feelings in mind. And it'd be at that point that it's just I would not have any desire to continue it. Because the thing is, I do know my mind enough to be able to know when it's like, oh, this is something I need to take a break from, or I'm just not going to be able to continue this. It's kind of a similar thing that like what happened back when I was reacting to Doom Patrol. For those who remember when I was reacting to that and why I had to drop that, it was affecting me mentally on such a level that I had to keep taking breaks from it, and eventually that became too much. And it's just I was not able to continue it because it was affecting me on way too personal of a level that I started to not lose interest in it, but I couldn't watch anymore. It was too affecting for me. And it's not exactly the same thing here because it's like with that I was taking so many breaks that it became kind of pointless for me to continue. And with this, it's like I need to take a break. Because if I keep forcing myself to watch, I'm not going to want to continue. So it's just, I'm going to finish out this arc with Arthur. And I did check it. This is the last episode with that. It is only these 2 episodes, but it's just like after that, like I will be taking a break, and we will come back with the last 3 episodes. I just need some time away from this, in order to refresh myself and be ready to watch this series again. To be able to get myself back into a good mindset with this series so I don't drop it. Because I don't want to drop it. I very much don't want to. Especially when we're so close to the end. But this is what I have to do to avoid that. Again, even with just 3 episodes left in this core, I just have to do this. So I apologize ahead of time. But we will be taking a break. Again, it's just a break. We're not dropping it. We will be coming back to it at some point in the future. It's not like we haven't like done short stuff on this channel before too. So when we bring it back, it's like, oh, 3 weeks of this and then going on to something else again. It's like, that's fine. I mean, we've been reacting to Re-Cutie Honey, and that's a 3-episode OVA, so it's very doable. But I do need this break. But let's finish up. Let's get through this episode. See how Arthur gets his new sword, gets his groove back, or whatever the fuck. And then move on to other stuff. I'll mention, obviously, in the afterthoughts what's going to replace this for the time being. And address that more at that moment. But let's get into it. See what this episode has in store. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. I have multiple things wrong with this episode, and not in the way that I initially expected. See, when this episode started and it showed Arthur's parents there, I thought this was about to get very serious, and we were going to have a second tone shift that would just, again, make so much feel out of place and immersion breaking. But instead, it just fumbles the bag with what it's trying to do here, or what I assume it's trying to do. It's trying to paint Arthur as a tragic character, from what I can tell. As a character who is, you know, has been abandoned now twice by his family, been basically replaced by them, and is living in this delusion that his parents created for him that basically keeps him from being unable to realize that he's been abandoned and that his parents are horrifically shitty people and, like, realistically don't deserve to have any kids. But, again, Arthur's too stuck in this delusion to see that. The problem with how this is done is that it's played for laughs. This entire storyline is like, they make a joke out of it. They turn it into a gag. Like, oh, Arthur's parents are abandoning him again. Let's show Arthur making a funny face and not realizing it, and having him just focus on his delusions and think his parents are actually saving the world and some shit. It undercuts the entire, like, emotional core of what this should be. And this was exactly the moment to change that. This was exactly the correct moment where they should have actually broken Arthur out of this delusion, the creator of this series. Arthur should have finally seen through his parents' lies, his delusions and everything. And I mean, still getting the sword because that's how he fights is fine, but this should have been the moment where things actually changed for him. But instead, it basically nothing happens. Nothing of any value occurs. Like, Arthur doesn't go through any growth here except, like, you know, getting a stronger weapon. There's no valuable progression to this. It feels like a waste of time, honestly. And it actually actively makes me hate Arthur much more. I don't like it as it is when serious topics like this are made to be like a joke. Sometimes it can be done okay. But like when you have like child abandonment and stuff, it's like that's not funny. Or how, like how a lot of anime like turns sexual assault into a joke. Not just anime, but manga as well. You know what I mean. How a lot of manga and anime does that. Yes, including One Piece. And yes, I know there's cultural differences with humor and stuff like that. It doesn't make it right. I hate it when like stuff like that is done. I hate it when stuff like this is done. When you take a serious topic and turn it into a gag. Especially a topic as serious as this. And it's like I'm like 100% convinced at this point, like nothing else is going to come of this. His family's never going to be seen again. This was the conclusion to that entire character arc. And there was no conclusion to it. The fact that you like finish up this arc, this little character arc, without actually doing anything with it, feels like an insult to the readers / viewers. It feels like you set them up and built them up only to have nothing come of it all. And I'm left feeling not even disappointed, not angry, just kind of hollow. Because it means nothing. His character means nothing at this point. He's not even funny or entertaining. It's not sad, it's not anger inducing, it just exists. And I guess you could say that's better than some characters in this show. But there's a certain point where it just feels like a waste of time. And it didn't go into a more serious tone. Honestly, I would have preferred that if it went into a more serious tone. And we dealt with the fact that Arthur's parents abandoned him. Or at the very least, like, maybe it wasn't his parents and it was just a trick by someone. That would have even been better. Like, Haumea somehow, like, having read his mind with her electrical impulse powers. And then someone else may be able to, like, make copies of his parents through that. I don't know. Something like that. That would have been more interesting and better than what we got here. Instead, we just completely fumble this entire plot line and make it into a big nothing. I'm just baffled by how poorly this was done. And I'm not even talking about the tone shift at this point. Like, the tone shift is one thing, but then it's like you don't even, like, give this a satisfying conclusion to this plot line. You make it, like, as unsatisfying, as unenjoyable as possible. It's just like, you're doing everything wrong. This series is better than this. But it's like Arthur is just one of those characters that the writer, I guess, just didn't know how to properly handle. What it basically comes across as for me is that it comes across as the writer didn't want to, like, didn't want to take away Arthur's gag of being, this delusional guy who thinks he's the Night King and everything, but couldn't think of an actual way to handle this storyline with his parents without while keeping it. Couldn't think of a way to like properly make it a serious storyline without having to take away Arthur's gag. Because for some reason, I guess, like, it just, again, feels like the creator thought his gag was so funny. It's not. But it's like the writer thought that, and it's like, okay, so how can we make it so he keeps his gag, but we could still address the parents for one final time? Oh, by not addressing anything at all, by not actually, doing anything with it. Perfect. It's just an insult. It is just absolutely an insult. And I just feel like so genuinely upset by this. It just feels like so backhanded. And I don't know how this was handled in the manga or whatnot, but it's just so bad here. Also, I wanted to look up what the design of Excalibur was in Soul Eater, since Soul Eater is a direct sequel to Fire Force. And it's different. It's notably different than what we have here, which means that this is still not Excalibur's final form. So there's that. For whatever that means, probably nothing. It's really just annoying at this point. And it's like, yeah, I know it's about to go into like a different arc and probably get more serious again. But it's like, with everything going on with this, with the tone shifts, with the bad writing and bad like character arc conclusion, it's just that it feels like a waste of time. And at this point, again, if I continue watching it right now, I'm just going to drop it. I just know I am. Because I'm, even if the next 3 episodes end up being really good, it's just, I feel like so upset with what they did with these two, that it's not something I can handle right now. And I don't want to like force myself to sit through it just on the potential that it could be a lot better. It's just, I don't want to like burn myself out on this series. I don't want to end up dropping it. The best decision here is just 100% to put it on hold and come back to the final 3 episodes down the line. This is just, I just need to get away from this series for now. So let's talk about what's going to replace this for Tuesdays. Because even though you're seeing this on Wednesday, this is still the Tuesday series. It's just because I wasn't able to record due to circumstances beyond my control yesterday. That's why you're seeing this a day late. Which I probably should have said earlier, but oh well. So, yeah. There's been a couple things I've been thinking about replacing this with. But I think there's one show that at this moment would be the best choice, just because of how this series, because of how Fire Force has been making me feel with these past couple episodes. I need something a lot more lighthearted to kind of just help me at the moment to make me like feel less upset. And I I think the best decision would be to remember that this is summer we're currently in. And there's only so many days of summer before the fall comes along just to end it and all. So, starting next Tuesday, provided nothing messes up with that again, we're going to activate our reactinators and realize with a simple hat that that's not just a platypus. It's Perry, the platypus. Yep. We are getting into the new season of Phineas and Ferb that I didn't know until yesterday had already started. I had no idea it had already started airing. I knew it was going to be airing, but I didn't know it was like that it had started yet. But I guess it makes sense, like, to start it with the summer and everything, like have it air in line with the summer vacation for kids. Like, that just makes sense. We reacted to the movie that came out a couple years back, and I really, really enjoyed that. Because Phineas and Ferb is my childhood to a degree. I mean, maybe not exactly childhood, but you know. It's like I still grew up with this shit. And it's like I have a lot of fond memories and a lot of, like, happiness associated with the series. Also, I follow Dan Povenmire on TikTok, which makes it even more surprising that I didn't know this had already started airing. But most of the videos I see of him are just like, you know, goofing around with people in public, or, you know, I saw one video of him on stage doing the theme song with Bowling for Soup. But that's most of the content I see from him. I didn't see anything like mentioning that the show had started airing. But yeah, so we're gonna start that next week, and hope for the best with that. With like all the cast back and everything, it should be just as good. I mean, I wouldn't see why not. The creators are still behind it. It's still Swampy and Dan. It's like I expect this to be like just as good as ever. Just, you know, a little better animated. Maybe on the level of the movie's animation is where it's gonna be now. But yeah, so the new season of Phineas and Ferb will start up next week. That'll be on our Tuesday slots, and hopefully it just ends up being just as good as Phineas and Ferb typically has been. So thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any thoughts on this episode of Fire Force Season 3, please feel free to let me know. Even if you disagree with my points on things. And are you excited for Phineas and Ferb? Let me know down in the comments. For now, though, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.